Hello, I'm Darren Alf from BicycleTouringPro.com, and today I'm going to be comparing and contrasting the Big Agnes Copper Spur HV Ultralight one-man tent with the REI Quarter Dome one-man tent. I have been using both of these tents for several months now, and I thought it would be a good time for me to tell you which of these two tents I like the most. So behind me here is the Big Agnes Copper Spur HV Ultralight one-man tent. This tent, when it's brand new, costs about $380 US. Just some quick facts about this tent. It has a total floor space of 20 square feet. There is a large vestibule in the front, which has a space of about 9 square feet. It's waterproof, freestanding, made of nylon. Pack weight is about 2 pounds, 8 ounces. Pack size is about 16.5 inches by 4 inches. And it has a total height of 38 inches. Now I'm gonna flip the camera around and give you a quick tour of the tent, kind of point out some of the things I like and dislike about this tent. So this tent comes in two different colors. It comes in green and orange at the moment. This is the green one, obviously, and I like this tent for stealth camping because it kind of blends into the surroundings here. I have the rainfly on the tent at the moment. You don't have to have the rainfly on. If you're camping in warm weather, you can take the rainfly off, and it is basically mosquito netting on the inside, so it allows quite a bit of ventilation on the inside. On the outside here, this is a fully waterproof rain cover. There is some ventilation here. You can pop that open. These buckles down here that connect the rainfly to the bottom portion of the tent are very high quality. I don't feel like they're gonna break or anything, which is important. There are a number of different extra places where you can tie the tent down, like here and on the other side. I'll run around so you can see it. But here, I don't usually stake the tent down with these just because I like to eliminate the tent pole entirely and not carry it. But for this video, I figured I would put it up so you could see what it looks like. It just pulls the material out from the tent a little bit to make sure that you don't get wet inside. There's also a small vestibule here in the back where you could store some things. I usually put my helmet when I'm bike riding back there. But the main vestibule is here in the front, and I'll go back around to the other side so you can see it. But this is the main entrance to the tent, and you can see there's a large space here where you can put a backpack or your panniers or food or your shoes or whatever you want to put inside the tent. Inside here, it's pretty standard. I have a sleeping bag and sleeping mat in here just so you can see what it looks like. But there's not really a whole lot of room inside the tent to store things. So most of your gear you're probably going to want to keep outside. But there are some pockets up here where you can store food or trash or put your smartphone up here or something like that, so you have it close by while you're sleeping. There's also another small pocket right here by the door that you can put some things in. One of the things that they did with this new HV version of the Copper Spur Ultralight tent is that they widened the headspace in the tent and narrowed the foot space. And I think this was a really good move because it makes the tent feel really, really big when you're on the inside. You don't feel cramped inside this tent, even though it's one of the smallest and lightest tents that's currently on the market when it's packed up and everything. So I really, really like that about this tent, and that's probably one of my favorite things about this, in addition to the fact that it's stealth green and super lightweight and super small, is the fact that when I'm inside, it feels super comfortable. Now behind me here, this is the REI Quarter Dome one-man tent. It's very similar to the Big Agnes Copper Spur HV Ultralight that I just showed you a moment ago. There are some differences, however, which I will point out now. Now, the REI Quarter Dome tent is a slightly cheaper tent than the Big Agnes Copper Spur, which I just showed you a moment ago. This tent, when it's brand new, costs $280 US, so it's $100 cheaper than the Copper Spur. This tent also has a slightly smaller floor space. It's not quite as big on the inside. It's about 18.9 square feet, so really just like 1 foot, but it feels considerably smaller when you get on the inside. This tent has a larger vestibule, however, so the outdoor space that's still covered by the rainfly is bigger than on the copper spur, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. I'll point out why that is, but the vestibule square footage is about 10 square feet outside the tent, where you have to store backpacks and panniers and whatever else you have. Just like the copper spur, the REI Quarter Dome tent is freestanding, waterproof, made of nylon. The pack weight for this tent is about 2 pounds 14 ounces, so it's a little bit heavier than the copper spur. It's also considerably larger when you talk about pack size. So it's about 18.5 inches long by about 6 inches wide or in diameter. So slightly larger pack size, which doesn't make it as good for backpacking or bicycle touring, because if you're one of those people like me who likes to keep your tent inside of your backpack or inside of your panniers, this tent is a little bit harder to fit. You need a really big backpack or a really big set of bags on your bicycle. Finally, the height on this tent is 42 inches tall at its tallest point, which is considerably taller than the copper spur. However, both tents, I feel at least, are more than tall enough on the inside to sit up comfortably. I'm 6'1", 6'2", and I can sit up inside both of these tents and still have several inches before my head hits the top of the tent. So that's really, really nice. Now, let me just give you a quick tour of the tent, and I'll point out some of the things that I like and dislike about this tent. So the overall design of this tent is very similar to the Big Agnes copper spur. The rainfly is not necessary. You can use it with or without the rainfly on the tent. The thing that I don't like about this tent is probably the rainfly itself and how it fits. It's just a little bit more difficult to fit it properly on the top of the tent, and I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's just the way it's kind of fitted or whatever, but I have a harder time getting the rainfly on here and making it fit properly. Secondly, these buckles that are down here at the bottom of the tent, I just feel like they're really cheap, and I'm always afraid especially when I'm buckling it in, like when I'm trying to buckle it in here, I feel like it's gonna break and bend or something. So you have to be very, very careful. The good thing about these buckles is they're super lightweight. The bad thing is I think they could break easily. I haven't broken one, but I think it could break easily. Finally, the last thing that I kind of dislike about the REI Quarter Dome tent here is that it requires 2 tent stakes, one here and one here, to string out the rainfly in the front of the tent. Now, the advantage to this is that because they're basically pulling the corners of the rainfly out, it makes the vestibule area underneath the tent, underneath the rainfly, a whole lot bigger. So you have more room to put your gear in this tent versus the copper spur. However, you're having to string out 2 tent stakes every single time you set up this tent. I'm lazy, I don't like doing that, and also that's just 1 extra tent stake that you have to carry with you when you're backpacking, bike touring, bike packing, etc. So personally, I don't think that's like a huge deal necessarily, but I do think it's something worth mentioning. So just like with the copper spur, there's a gap here where you can get some ventilation inside the tent so you don't experience any condensation overnight. Inside here, I've got one sleeping bag and sleeping mat in here just so you can kind of see how it fits. But there's not a whole lot of room, to be honest. This is a much tighter fitting tent than the Big Agnes copper spur. You aren't going to be able to fit very much stuff inside the tent at all. Just like with the copper spur, there is a couple small pockets here in the Quarter Dome, one down at the bottom and 2 up top. There's also a zipper here so that if you forget to close this overnight or you want to close it, it's starting to get cold or something, you can just reach straight through and close this little gap there. So that's kind of nice. And then, like I said, the vestibule area here on the outside is probably one of the biggest benefits of this tent. So if you got a lot of gear and you're worried about keeping it dry, this might be the best tent for you. So now that we've had a chance to look at both tents, I guess the question is, which tent should you buy if you can only buy one? Now, if you're on a budget, I would definitely go with the REI Quarter Dome tent. It is a high quality waterproof tent that will work perfectly for backpacking trips, bicycle touring trips, bike packing trips, etc. So this is the tent that I would choose. I'd just watch out for those buckles on the Rainfly. If you have the extra $100, however, and you want to feel more at home when you're out there on the road, I would definitely go with the Big Agnes Copper Spur HV ultralight one-man tent. It is $100 more than the REI tent. However, I think that if you are serious about your outdoor exploits, that $100 pays off in the long run. I like the Big Agnes Copper Spur because it's one of the smallest and lightest tents that I've ever come across, and I feel at home when I am inside the tent. All right, so that's it, guys. If you want to learn more about these two tents, be sure to visit my website at bicycletouringpro.com or click on the link in the video description down below. I'm Darren Alf from bicycletouringpro.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you out on the road sometime soon.